another edition of character over complexion. If you're new, that's what I call this channel, and I call it that for a reason, because you gotta pay attention. All around the world, the complexion of a person is what they use to say what the character of the person is. You know, it's like judging a book based on the cover. And whoever said don't judge a book by his cover or judge a book by its cover, what they were doing was telling you that go beyond your eyesight, go beyond your mind, in which the first impulse that you've been taught in the world. Because when it comes to complexion people, the first thing that people think about when they see a person of complexion is criminality. They look at them like a bunch of pit bulls, or, you know, a bunch of apes, or whatever you want to call it, whatever species you want to call it. What one does, they all do. We all grouped in to the same type of behavior, and it's not the behavior of excellence, because across the world, it's not promoted. The doctors, the lawyers, the scientists, the heart surgeons, you know, the people of excellence are not promoted. They don't have pictures. They're not being promoted in the imagery. There's not movies about it. It's not in the history books. All these things you got to go hunt for. But to look horrible and to look like a criminal, you don't have to hunt for that. That's a gift that was given to you by America. When you open your eyes in the morning, it's just a gift. If you show up on an elevator, sometimes people going to get uncomfortable. They're going to start getting nervous and all of that. You might be a doctor. That might be your hotel that they at. But based on your complexion, they don't associate anything good with it. When we're not dropping bombs on anybody, we're not doing any mass killings, we're not colonizing anybody, you know, we're not putting poison in the food, nothing. But the first thing that happens when they see you show up and you're chocolate, Hershey's chocolate like myself, and you're over 6'3", the first thing that goes into the person's mind is, oh, this guy's gonna do something to harm me, or is a criminal, or this and that, right? When nothing is further from the truth. I'm an entrepreneur, and I had to work hard to become one because of the aforementioned reasons. I got to work almost 3 times as hard to get something that somebody just got to roll out of bed to get, that's not of my complexion or doesn't have melanin. And I know it's hard for some people to hear that, but it is what it is. You know, if you've been here for over 18 years, then you already know what it is. You know, you might have had friends when you was younger, you know, 0 to 6 or 0 to, you know, to the time you got to high school. And y'all was really cool. You know, y'all used to go sleep over at each other's house and stuff like that. But at some point along the journey, somebody got in between y'all and started telling y'all that based on your complexion, not your character, but your complexion, y'all can't be around each other. You see, that's what makes sports such a beautiful thing, because sports actually elevates the world forward, because it helps the world to see the world as what it is. There's great people of every complexion, but it's not just like that in sports. It's like that in everything. It's like that in medicine. It's like that in law. It's like that in politics. It's like that in every area of life you can think about. All right? But that's just what they push on us to say, hey, you can be great in this country, but you have to be a musician, you have to be an athlete, or you have to be a movie star. Basically, you have to be an entertainer. And whatever you make, everybody's gonna know what you make. And if you're a movie star, they're gonna know how much money you make for each movie. If you're an entertainer or like an athlete, they're gonna know what you sign your contracts for. Because we want the people to look at you, because you can control the masses. You see, what they understood is people look up to so-called role models or so-called celebrities, and they aspire to be like these people because The main reason is not even the money. The reason is they see that they're accepted. When they go in the store or something like that, first the people gotta identify that you're a celebrity first, right? And then they throw out the criminality altogether and you get treated like a human being. But sometimes if they don't know that that person is a movie star or an entertainer, they'll get treated just like anybody else based on their complexion. They don't see the character because they was taught not to. Just like we was taught to see ourselves through the eyes of these entertainers and these musicians, the world was taught to see us through the eyes of their ancestors as well, as the people that put our ancestors in chains and in captivity. But they don't go back far enough to see how this stuff started. They don't go back to the early times of life and in the 1400s when the Catholic Pope put out a edict that said it was legal to make people slaves based on their complexion. Now, 1481, he passed out an edict that said it was okay to basically kidnap human beings from aspiring to gain their pursuit of happiness based on skin color. So when you look at our ancestors and you looked at complected people in America and in the history books, because they don't go back further than that, they don't go back into what they want to go back into, because it's really to keep everybody's mind on a lower level of vibration. All right. So every time from the time that you was conceived until whatever age you are, almost every image of your ancestry is in your mind of them being in chains or servitude. Chains or servitude is reserved for criminals. So let that sit there subconsciously for a second and see what the brainwashing is doing, not only to us, but people that's not of our complexion. Because we only look at it through the lens of our eyes, but we don't look at it through the lens of the world that's being pushed this stuff. And whenever they see one of our people, they make those people that are famous seem like they're the best of us. But they recruit the people that's not in our interest. And exactly, it's not the best of us, but a lot of times the worst of us, especially in the music genre. And even some of the athletes, but not all of them, not all the musicians, not all the athletes, not all the movie stars. But as we focus on them, there's the Wizard of Oz trick going on again. There's somebody behind that controlling it, because you got to remember, melanated people don't own much. They don't control anything. The illusion is to make it look like there is some control. There is none. Because when you hear about, this guy got paid X amount of money for this movie, what you ought to ask is, who hired him? When you hear about, Steph Curry made $200 million to play basketball, your next question is to be, that's excellent. But what does the guy that owns the team? Because somebody got to pay him their checks. And we usually stop and focus on the melanated people and say, man, I want to be like them. And nothing wrong with that. If they live in a positive, non-criminal image is being promoted. If they got the braids in their hair, all this other stuff, and they got their pants half off their behind, and they basically, ain't nothing wrong with braids. But if they're promoting, prison lifestyle, then they own code to get their bosses a lot of money, because you don't see the master slave a relationship. They just how you paid. But if you don't have the freedom to do what you want to do, you got millions of dollars. Just think about all the athletes that got millions of dollars right now. It'll blow your mind, the billions of dollars that our people have acquired. but they can't do what they want with it. If they have their mind set on going by, just throwing their money right back, buying $3 million cars and buying these super big mansions, and hey, it's their money, they could do whatever they want with it. I don't have a problem with what they want to do with their money. What I'm telling you is the facts. The facts is, it don't take that much to get ahead. Some of these people got more money than cities have. And you still got people with nothing. You still got melanated people with nothing. Because their publicists won't allow them to use their income to help other black people start businesses and things of that nature. They got a guy named Warrick Dunn, right? He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just want to acknowledge him real quick. This guy, Warrick, I'm not talking about you. If you ever hear this, you are one of the exceptions. I'm sure there's other guys, but you are one of the exceptions. You've done so much for our community. I just want to take a second to acknowledge the houses that you bought for single mothers. Man, you are phenomenal. And you don't get any credit. They're not, telling people what you've done. And you don't care if they tell, if they don't. Because that's just the type of person you are. You're doing it from the heart. You're a humble brother. And God bless you and your family. God bless you, brother. Because you actually remembered where you came from and you wasn't scared. You went off radar, went off the grid, and done all these good. But I know about it because I followed your career. I never stopped following your career because of your character, sir. Because of your character. You're a phenomenal human being, man. And I just wanted to take the second to give you some time. And if anybody hears this video, Google this brother. This is a phenomenal brother. And he never made the money that some of these other superstars made. Just imagine if we had 100 Warrick Dunns. And there's only one, right? God only made one Warrick Dunn. But what I'm talking about is the mentality of Warrick Dunn. Just imagine if we had 1,000 people like that in this country. You know how our outlook would be? You know how that would touch the kids? Because we losing this battle. Thank you, Mr. Warrick Dunn. There's not enough people with your mentality. But let me get back to this point. I just had to stop and acknowledge you, sir. And acknowledge how you wear your crown. But I'll jump back into this. But let me say this one more thing first. You are the example of someone that has character over complexion. And bravo to you, sir. Bravo to you. I'm supposed to get back to my point, but hey, look, hey, I gotta give you credit where credit is due. All right, but just imagine that mentality if that would have funneled onto other complected men. Now, I'm not saying guys don't do nothing, but they usually go and give shoes, school uniforms, and that's all great for what it's worth. But when you give school uniforms, what you're doing is you're building up the athletic program of that school. So that's a circular gift, because you're really giving it to the school. Because the child, hopefully, they're not over there to that school too long. And they need to move on. Whether it's high school, they should be only there 4 years. College, only there 4 years. And they should be moving on. So that's a gift for the school. They don't take that stuff with them. Yeah, they might get faster and stronger at the time, but that doesn't go with them. We need to sow more into the academics, and not only education, but the re-education of our kings and queens. Right? So that's why people like me make videos like this, to try to catch a person where they are. And to remind you that you are a king and a queen. And I'm trying to tell you why I'm saying that. I'm not just throwing that out there and saying, oh yeah, look what happened in Africa. No, I'm telling you, you're a king and a queen, and they spend trillions of dollars to convince you that you're not. So that ought to tell you right there that you're great. Anytime we have to go find criminals, real criminals, and pay them millions of dollars and put them on TV and put them, because you got to remember, so-called black people, they don't own much. They don't own TV stations. They don't own radio stations. They don't own internet radio stations. They may have a channel, but that channel is in somebody else's network. We don't have our own www. Somebody else got the credit for that. We don't have Facebook. Somebody else got that. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So if we don't own anything and we know that people hate our guts, which is the one thing that the whole world has agreed on, that they hate us. They hated us in the past, they hate us in the present, and they're going to hate us in the future. But with all that being said, why would somebody give you millions of dollars? And I say give. And I'm not saying you're not talented and you didn't earn it. I'm saying they're giving it to you because they could put a price on whatever they want to put a price on. Right? Have you been to the store lately? The price of eggs is not the same. Somebody's giving that value. The chicken is still doing the same thing. But why is the cost of the eggs different? Water is the same. Why does it have a price now? If you follow what I'm saying, I hope you follow what I'm saying. Somebody's sitting on the top of that and making those choices that affect you and I. Remember, God said we the head and not the tail. But we're not making any of these choices. So we lost our place. All right? So bear with me for a second. Just bear with me for a second. So the reason I'm saying this is because if people can't stand you, why would they give you airtime on their channel? They can be promote. We already understand that we don't own the media. So how do you get on it? We understand we don't own TV stations. So how do you get on TV? We also understand we don't own radio stations. So how do you get on it? Because you remember, these people don't care about you. If somebody gives you a piece of fruit that can't stand you, you better make sure that fruit doesn't have poison in it. Wink, wink. If you get on a TV station or if you get on a radio station, you need to do a little research if you're sitting back home watching something that has your imagery on it. Because the people don't like you, they're liable to put something in the front of your eyes that's going to destroy you. And if you don't recall, if you're not abreast with history, when slavery was abolished, as they say, there was a lot of pissed off people. Right? You ever wonder why they assassinated the 5th president? The Emancipation Proclamation. Now that's a whole different thing, because somebody could argue, oh, they never shot him for that. But I would argue that being that his image is synonymous with freeing kidnapped people, which y'all call slaves. I don't call them slaves. I call them kidnapped people. Freeing kidnapped people from being kidnapped and allowing them to compete, which there was really nothing left to compete for. Y'all owned everything when y'all released them. Okay? But there was something called the 14th Amendment. So after he got shot in the head with Abraham Lincoln, he had put something in place called the 14th Amendment that basically said that, you know, not only are we free, but there was a but in there. And the but said, if you get convicted of a charge or a felony, they can throw you right back in slavery. And you lose all your rights. You basically got the same thing over you that you've been had over you. And while people think that they're not in slavery, why don't you look around and look at your neighbor, or look at your neighbor's neighbor, or look at your classmate, or look at the person that's at your supermarket? Doesn't everybody look like criminals? You see, 20 years ago, everybody didn't look like they do now. Everybody didn't have tattoos on from their face to their daggone toes. See, tattoos were associated with being a criminal. You would get prison tats, certain tattoos in prison to represent, what gang you belong to. Those tattoos were for identification, for either protection or for rivalry. But it was mainly for protection while you was in that place. So if somebody else didn't know which so-called set you was from, all they had to do was see your tattoo and know that, hey, you belong to this group. So even though I don't recognize you as being from that group, I see your tattoo, now I know that's where you're from. I ain't got no beef with you. I'm not gonna touch you. Matter of fact, we can work together. We can build trust. We can build a community, right? Because these are what these tattoos were for. But now, if you had to time travel back 20 years ago, you wouldn't see any of that. It was very minimal. If you were to time travel back 30 years, you really wouldn't see any of that. The only place you was going to see it was in prison. You wouldn't see anybody walking around with their pants hanging half off their behind. Was no such a thing as sagging. The only place you would find that was in prison. Homosexuality, hey, y'all do what y'all do in your bedroom. The only place that was really pronounced was also in prison. Right? So it's not that bad for everybody else, because their complexion doesn't equal criminality. But when it comes down to us melanated people, us complected people, if you got your pants hanging half off of your behind, you got tattoos on your body, and you standing around more than one person that has tattoos and has the same dress code as you, it's easy for a lawman to pull up on you and almost expect for y'all to be doing something of criminality. Even though you might be a linebacker in the NFL, the highest football league in the land. But based on what the imagery is around the world, by them hiring rappers to put on their television shows, which these are nice guys, but once they turn the camera on, they only want the people that's going to cause destruction to the black community. Period. So if you ever wonder why the rappers that with a good message don't get signed, that's why. They don't want them. They want the ones that's going to destroy you. But the only way they can destroy us like in such of a manner is if we refuse to grow up. You ever heard in these movies and stuff, I seen they got a new color purple coming out. And they got all these stars and all this in the color purple. What the hell? Why remake that? So y'all got all this money, so y'all gonna remake that. But it's to keep the masses dumb. So you're gonna go over there and get entertained, but in the back of your mind, you're gonna be able to see slavery all over again. You're gonna see your ancestors kidnapped. But unbeknownst to you, you don't get to the part where they got kidnapped. All you see is their condition. And they in chains. And that's all you see, and you start to identify with that. But if you look over, they probably got some people that's not melanated watching the same film as you. And when y'all meet up in the store later, you're going to go to the left and they're going to go to the right. There's an old thing called divide and conquer. This is how the elites keep everybody in check, or the so-called elites keep everybody in check. Because they don't want the people to get together. Because they let the people get together before, and it was in 1681, I believe, in Virginia, and they had a massive revolt. Go check out Bacon's Rebellion. They never made that mistake again. That's where the category white came from. Because on first, everybody was just living and doing everything together. But when they seen that their circumstances and situations was alike, they was able to gather together and go against the powers that be, because they seen that they was all suffering some type of slavery, or being mistreated. But hey, you can go chase that rabbit down that rabbit hole if you want. It's called Bacon's Rebellion, and I believe it was from 1681 to 1684, something like that. And if you go Google that, you're gonna learn a lot about why they separated the people based on their complexion. That's why they started doing that, to keep everybody in check. They gave one set privileges, and they opened up a hole and dumped the other ones in it. They made a new bottom. So the so-called white people didn't get any more money. Everything was still the same for them. But what they did was they opened up a hole and made a new bottom for our people, for the complected people. And that's how things are today. We're still suffering those effects today. So if you're a history buff, or you want to go dig into that and try to understand how things got the way it is, Bacon's Rebellion 1681 in Virginia. Go check that out. And it was all people, all complexions was fighting together against the elites. All right. So back to this point. You don't own a TV station or a radio station. How you get on it? People don't like you. Matter of fact, they hate you. They don't want to see you with anything. But if somebody figured out something, if I can pay one person $10 million to influence 10 million people to imprison themselves and to go into volunteer for slavery, they done made all their money back and some. But that 10 million they paid you, they probably made 10 billion off of the slavery, off of the free labor. And people throwing their lives away, and they keep the status quo the way it is. So what I'm asking you, when I call this channel Character Over Complexion, I'm simply asking you to wake up, take your life off of autopilot, put that phone down, cut that TV off, and stop taking the prescription that they told you you're supposed to take. Stop being comfortable, finding your way, going into a situation that our ancestors fought to come out of. Why would you kill somebody that looked like you to go back into slavery? And you might say, hey man, most of your content is like that. It's like that now. And if I had to talk about this for 5 years, it wouldn't be enough. Because we have to take our mind back, people. You may not think it's a big deal now, but if we take our minds back, the next generation take their minds back, then the unborn is going to have a better life. We're going to be back where we're supposed to be at, and that's kings and queens, sitting on the thrones of our opportunities again, serving our Father that's in heaven the way we're supposed to. Because once you start to take back your mind, it's a lifelong thing. Because the brainwashing is just like seasoning that's been sitting in the meat for a month. It's in there. It's way in there. It's deep in there. So when you go to start cooking that food, it's deep. And it accomplished exactly what it was supposed to accomplish. And God bless you if you understand that. But a lot of y'all don't. So this is where channels like this come from. Because the ones of us that can see, it's our job to teach the rest of us to open their eyes so they can see, so that they can live and love and pursue happiness like they're supposed to, and to hopefully not become a slave. Because now I call it slavery. Back then there was kidnapping people. Today people volunteering because they want to belong to a certain gang or they want to do this. I would tell you, no matter how big or strong or fast you are, stop being a coward and be a man. It's time to grow up. My melanated men, it's time to grow up. And it's time to stop being boys. Because everything that's associated with us is considered a game. Have you noticed how we throw that word around? Oh yeah, man, he taught me the game. Or he gave me the game. Where you going at? I'm going to watch the game. Oh, I'm going to show you how to play because I'm a player. You ever notice how these words, we just throw them around, they all associated with staying stagnant and adolescent? I'm a play, man. I'm going to show you how to play because I'm a player. There's nothing wrong with just being a man. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh, I'm going to show you the game. Oh, he don't know the game. Where you going at? Oh, I'm going to watch the game. Everything is centered around playing. Do you ever notice that? And I'm sure some other stuff come to your mind right now that I'm not even thinking about that has to do with playing. Everything is centered around a game. You know who play games? Kids. What's going on around the world and the images that we have and that's being promoted around the world? That's real. That's real life. That's manhood. To be concerned about how my grandfather's projected to my son. It's manly to be concerned about that because it's manly to know how the mind works. It's manly to know how the spirit works with the mind. But we don't want to partake in none of that because that's too serious. We'd rather somebody else do it and bring the research to us. We'd rather play a game. Or better yet, where the PlayStation at? Where the Xbox at? Where the Nintendo Switch? Because they got a new game just came out. And while you sitting up there smoking your weed or drinking your alcohol or whatever you do, whatever your vice is, they're continuing to surround the bases. They're making traps for your children. I didn't want to go this long with this one, but I get a little passionate sometimes. I got to work on my editing. I know nobody want to look at a black screen. But man, if you just driving down the road and you want to put something on that's going to speak to you, something that you could have a conversation with, always remember, anything in life, the most important thing that you have going on is your character. They got ways to judge your character based on your credit. Because, oh, they didn't pay on time, so he want this house, we can't give it to him. Basically what they're telling you is your character don't line up to be able to handle that responsibility. That's what they're basically trying to tell you. Now, it can get this started, with some people paying child support, or they got a wicked baby mama, or, stuff like that, or they got in a bad situation with the law earlier in their life. But it's not a game. When gangster music showed up with a bunch of dudes with jerry curls and long hair and telling us to disrespect our women and treat them like trash, I was a teenager at that time and I did see a change. That's what my book, The Catfish Farm, is about. It's about the subtlety of brainwashing and how the people that does it are very patient. They had a plan. And their plan was for you to volunteer yourself back into slavery. Because they had a lot of angry people that was when they you still could pass around certain places and see Confederate flags hanging around. And that was the side that lost in the war. But what they're trying to illustrate to everybody is that's a symbol that says, hey, complexion over character. You see, they got it backwards. Because they think they're just supposed to be awarded things because of their complexion. And they think we're supposed to be disrespected because of it. The same thing. That's why this channel is called Character Over Complexion. Because it's time for us to take our minds back from that. People can feel how they want to feel about you. But if you don't agree with them, they don't have any power over you. So this video went long enough. I wanted that to be the first installment of Men, It's Time to Grow Up. I'm going to touch that in a series in a couple of different ways. I'm going to take some topics and just do my best by the grace of the Holy Spirit and espouse on it. Because each and every one of you are a sleeping giant. You have a sleeper cell inside of you that the Most High is waiting for you to connect with so you can wake up and be productive, not only in this life, but for the kingdom of glory. And you can't do it wearing your pants half off your behind. You can't do it watching these video vixens shaking their behind all over the place. And you must have your patience and keep it. And remember that these things are so-called fast life. Don't ever live a fast life. Because the people that's promoting the fast life, they sold their soul. Because they decided that they was going to sell me and you out. And they tell you that's what they doing. And only a fool would support somebody that tell you they're not with you. They're not for you or your children. These are the images that they run around the world to keep us associated with criminality based on our complexion. They go find the worst of us, people with prison records and all that, and they promote them and put them on posters, and they put their picture everywhere. What you need to understand is why. And that's why I created this channel. Why? And if you stay with me, we're going to unpackage it. We're going to unpackage it. This is a long introduction. And I'm just getting started. And I'm going to get better at this every time I click record. Because this is my purpose. This is what I was born to do. And if you don't believe that, just check the difference in between each and every video. When I get my editing skills up, they're going to really catch some hell with me. But I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for you. And as I do this for you, I'm doing this for God. Because God said, let the greatest man among you do what? Be a servant, not a slave. I pray you know the difference. A servant is the person that puts a McDonald's together or something like that. And you can pass 1,000 people through there, and he found a way, or she found a way, to be of service and serve a bunch of people because everybody get hungry. That person is helping you not be hungry. A servant is a person who puts a basketball gymnasium together for the kids, where when they have something to do after school, they can go over there versus just being around the streets. And when I say streets, I'm not talking about your neighborhood. I'm talking about the mentality of what we call the streets. Because the streets is a mentality. That's why they say you can take the brother out the hood, but not the hood out the brother. I'm telling you, that's a lie. Because if that would have been true, you wouldn't have had me making this video. So these things are all lies to keep you in bondage, mentally, physically, and financially. Some people got $1 million and they're going to say, oh man, that's not no money. Oh, if I'd have won $1 million, oh, that's not no money. Well, hey, consider the source. How much you got in the bank, sir or ma'am? Probably not even 10,000. So you telling me $1 million is not a lot of money? It's not if you're just going to give it away. But if you're going to make investments, you plan on paying stuff off. $1 million is $1 million. Really 500,000 after taxes. But even with that, couldn't you use it? I can. I'd pay some stuff off and invest in some things so that the lingering result of the money would last. I'd put some in CDs and let it grow over time. But I wouldn't give up my day job. Not yet. But I'm going to stop it right here. Because it's enough that it's a black screen, right? The last thing I want to do is make it long. But sometimes I just get a little passionate. I want to say a quick prayer with you. If you're still here, God bless you. Because if you make it to the end of these videos, I will say a prayer for you. Heavenly Father, in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ, I pray that the listener of this video develops the character that you've designed this world to exude through our flesh and our minds. Let them be doctors, lawyers, judges. Let them be kings and queens. Let them be fathers and mothers. And let those titles have rank in their mind. Let them understand the highest part of those titles, not the lower end of it. Bring it into their life in perfect ways. Teach them the glory of your name and the glory of why they need to call on your name and why we all need prayer for them. Bring it about slowly, Father. Be just as subtle as the world is, Father. Even if you have to inculcate it slowly until it erodes their mind to your glory, Father. And rebuild them, Father. Resurrect them. Resurrect us all, Father. And give us all the mind of Christ. To love Christ is not boring. To love Christ is not something that's undesirable. To love Christ is essential. To be free is to love Christ. Because to know the truth makes one free. And I ask that these things become important to the listeners. And I ask that every invention that they think about, Father, that you give them the creativity to bring it about, Father. That you give them the mental fortitude to be patient as you work that miracle on your will of creativity, Heavenly Father. May their health be great. May they prosper in everything that they do, especially if it's from your kingdom. Let them see it even faster. And protect them and give them provision in all things. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, the Hamashiach, the King of glory. For yours is the kingdom, the glory, and power forever. We say, amen. I love you. I pray that you prosper even as your soul prospers. And in all things, be blessed. Character is way more important than complexion. It always will be.